First one, you guys. If you look, the first one on the picture is these two little ones, two little muscles right behind their eyes. If you look at the label, they're called pterygoideus. Now, it has a P here. The P is silent. It's like, it's not even there, okay? Yeah, pterygoideus, okay? Now, on the frog, please look at your frog. It should be this little round bump right here behind the eye. Looks like a little round circular muscles right behind the eyes, okay? Now, the next one, if you see, we're going to go to this circle. Now, if you're unsure what this circle is, you can label it on your diagram right now. This circle is their eardrum, which is these two circles here, and it's the tympanic membrane. So if you want to label what that is so you know, okay, this is all relating to that eardrum. So the tympanic membrane, which means right behind the tympanic membrane is a muscle flap. That's the one I had you separate earlier. So again, if you were to pull it up, it'd be this little flap of muscle right here, pretty much behind the ear. So this flap of muscle is called depressor mandibularis. Now they call it mandibularis because this muscle wraps around the bottom of the jaw. And what is the jawbone called? Mandible. Okay, depresses or closes the mouth. Okay. Now, if I pull that flap up and I hold it, okay, and I'm holding it forward, the depressor mandibularis, you'll see now is our next muscle in the picture, which is this big shoulder muscle here. This big shoulder muscle is covering a big bone, which is why they name it this. So they call this muscle, which is right here, dorsalis scapulae. Because what is the name of the big shoulder blade bone? Scapula. So it's the dorsal muscle over the scapula bone. Okay. Now, if I keep going, you'll see there's another muscle here going sideways across the back. This is the one I had you get underneath so you can pick it up and show it going side to side. Okay. This muscle is this one right here. I'm going to use two probes here. This muscle is this one. We call it latissimus dorsi. Okay. Now, we're going to stop here and we're going to go to the arm. I want you to grab the arm, pull it out so you can see elbow to wrist. Once you have the arm out, elbow to wrist, you should be able to put your probe in. There's a fine line right here on the bottom. If you just gently rub your probe there, you'll be able to pull down that whole bottom muscle. You'll just be able to grab it and kind of separate it. Okay? Then if you go up to the top, you should see another fine line or groove. If you just barely touch your probe to that fine line, you'll see the whole upper muscle can be separated and pulled up. Okay? So we have two muscles that you have to know in the wrist area. Okay? First one, bottom one is this one right here, which is ulnaris, because it's by the ulna bone. Okay? Then we have this one up here, this one right here, which is extensor carpi radialis. Now they give it this name because it's by the radial bone, and it attaches into the wrist, which are little what bones? Carpal bones. Okay? So extensor carpi radialis, bottom bone, ulnaris. Okay? By the ulna bone. All right. Now if we go back to our frog. If we go back here now, we have this muscle on the side is still the same as the front, which is external obliques. If we go down, here's where you should now be able to see in the middle of the back. It looks like, honestly, a gigantic tulip. Like a flower, a gigantic tulip right here. And you can see I can kind of pull this one down and separate it from the little skinny one above it. This big, gigantic tulip has the longest, funkiest name of all of them. It's called Coccygia iliacus. That's the tulip one. Coccygia iliacus. Okay? Now you'll see the next one in our picture is these two little bumps. That's the butt bump. The butt muscles, which would be this bump and this bump. So these two little bumps are the, theirs isn't maximus, theirs is just gluteus. It's so little you might even call it gluteus minimus. I don't know. It's tiny, okay? All right, then we go down. If you look, the next one is a tiny little muscle. It's called piriformis, you guys. You'll see here's the pretty much the middle of their butt region, back area, and there's this tiny little muscle. So if you're going to color it, please color it right now. It's just this tiny line here and this tiny line here. That's it. It's almost like a little muscle that goes right over the back of their butt area. Now, to find it, it may have some fat tissue here, but pretty much if you reach in and you just put your probe under, you should be able to pull it up. because it pretty much wraps right there. It's like this little extension. Yes, kind of south of the butt muscle. Okay? So if you kind of move away just some of that tissue, you're going to see this little muscle right here. And it's on both sides. It actually goes up over the bones and then back down on both sides. Okay? So this one is the best one right here, which is this. Oop, I just pulled it out. That was not good. We'll tuck it back in there. It's this one that kind of goes over and down into the dark depths of the thigh. Okay? It's that little muscle. Piriformis. Okay? All right. Moving forward. You'll see the next muscle on your diagram is this one right here. You'll see it looks like a capital M at the top because it attaches at two spots. This big thigh muscle is called triceps femoris. So if you look at your butt, find your butt muscle, your gluteus muscle, and you'll see that this is the muscle that does the big M right around the butt muscle. So this here and this here are both triceps femoris. That's the one we peeled up on the other side. Okay? Now if we go down, you'll see at the back of the leg, you should still have the little flap muscle that we separated yesterday. Okay? So now I'm working on this little muscle right here. This muscle is this one here, which is called gracilis minor. Little tiny muscle, okay? Gracilis minor. Now above it is a big muscle. That's this whole thing right here. This whole big muscle is semimembranosus. Semimembranosus, this big muscle. Okay, semimembranosus. And that's it for the thigh. Now if we go down even further to the calf. When we get to the calf, you guys, there's this big calf muscle here. It's the same as the front. What do we call this big calf? Gastrocnemius. Attached by what tendon? Achilles tendon. Now if I pull over gastrocnemius, you'll see that there's a muscle right next to it, right? That is this muscle right here in the picture, which is peroneus. Now, if I turn the kneecap, I want to stress, okay, I want to show you clearly. You guys should have already done this on yours. These students were absent, so theirs isn't done. Yesterday, you guys should have separated this muscle right at the front that looks like a capital A. What is this muscle? Tibialis anterior. A for A. Tibialis anterior. Which means you'll see that peroneus is the one that's behind it. Posterior, okay? And that's peroneus. All right, that's that side, okay? Now let's go through the other side. I'm going to rotate my diagram here, put my frog on the other side. Okay, so here we go. On this one, you guys, we're going to look at the upper arm from elbow to shoulder. So pretty much you want to grab the arm so you can kind of hold it so you have the elbow kind of here and you see the shoulder going up. Now when you see the shoulder going up, you should see this one that looks like it's going almost up into the shoulder back area. This one way up here. This one that kind of goes from the arm up into pretty much the chest region almost. This is the deltoid. Okay? Now in the arm itself, you're going to have to look carefully, but you should see a fine line that you put your probe into. Real thin line. And once you do that, you should be able to pull down, there it is, this whole bottom muscle. This whole bottom muscle is this bottom muscle right here, which is still the same as the bottom on the front muscle, which is anconeus, which means this one right here that looks kind of triangular, this one right here, which is in the middle of the back of the arm, this one, is this one right here on our diagram. The back of your arm, just like you, is triceps brachii. Okay, triceps brachii. So again, in the arm, you should be able to see three. Deltoid, triceps brachii, bottom is anconeus. Deltoid, triceps brachii, anconeus. Okay? All right. Now we're going to find two. I think these are, one of these is probably the hardest one to see. If you look in the middle of the back, if you look at our diagram, there's the two that go across sideways. Who are these thin flaps? Latissimus dorsi. which means running right underneath it, going the opposite direction. You can see the graininess of the muscle. It's going vertically. We call these, they're right here in the middle, longissimus dorsi. They run longitudinally, okay, going straight up and down. Now you'll see that here's the one that it looks like, it's two muscles that have the same name, but they look like they do a capital V. So go ahead and color this one right now. It's called iliolumbaris, okay? Now iliolumbaris is this muscle here that comes down to a pointed V, and then it's also this one here that comes down to a pointed V, okay? Now if I were to look at the frog itself to find this, pretty much I would have to just stab into my longissimus dorsi and pull in. And you'll see it separates inward. And once it does, we can now see the one that's right next to it, which is this little bump here, which comes down to this pointed V above coccygeal iliacus. So this would be one, yeah, I would pretty much stab one and separate, and then I'd stab that one. Does that make sense?
Where does...
Now, again, if I pull this one up, you'll see I can clearly separate longissimus dorsi going forward, which means this, again, if I use two probes here, this is longissimus dorsi, this one on the outside like a little bump here, and then a line, a fine little line is all iliolumbaris, okay? And who's the big tulip underneath them? Longest name? Coccygeal iliacus. All right, going down here to the internal. I hope you didn't color this one yet, because I only want you to color the few that you will be tested on from the backside, okay? Now, first of all, you'll see that they've taken triceps femoris and they did what to it?
Snip.
They snipped it so we could see what's under. We're not going to snip it, we're just going to pull it up. So if we pull it up, we can now see the muscles underneath it, right? These are the ones you're going to color in this diagram. There's this big muscle on the top. It's the same as the name of the top muscle on the other side. It's adductor longus. Color that one right now. Adductor longus is one you want to be able to know from the back, which would be this top muscle always. Okay? Adductor longus. It's hidden underneath. Oh, you mean when we looked at it this way?
Yeah.
When we pull up sartorius, it's this huge, it's this muscle that goes all the way. Look how big it is. It wraps all the way. One giant top muscle. Okay? All right, sorry. I'm going to rotate back. Right, give me back in view here. Diagram. All right. So again, triceps femoris is picked up. The first top one is adductor longus. Now you'll see this is the next one I want you to color. This little triangular deep muscle right here. This little triangular deep muscle we were all trying to find just now is called iliacus internus. Now it's called internus because it's where? Internal or inside. So what I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you can clearly see yours. Again, I'm going to pull apart this vein here. Your vein is probably not as big as that one. And you should see this little triangular muscle right here, which I can pull forward like this. It's this one right there. That's iliacus internus, okay? Now, the only other one that you need to know from that's deeper on the back of the leg is this little skinny one here I want you to color. This little skinny one in the back of the thigh is called biceps femoris. Why do you think they call it femoris?
Femur.
It's right next to the big femur bone. So that would be this skinny one. Do you see it running right down the middle? Whoop. So this one right here, biceps femoris, it's this one in the picture. I don't want you to color any of the others. And the reason is, this one here is adductor magnus. They're saying if I cut through semimembranosus, peel away, yeah, I'm going to see this big muscle from the front. But I'm not going to test you on that muscle from the back because I want you to know it's a front thigh muscle, okay? Which means please don't color adductor magnus back here because you can see it from the front. It's a front muscle. I'm going to test it as a front muscle, okay? So really the only ones that are deep in the back that you need to know is iliacus internus and
Biceps femoris.
biceps femoris.